Hey guys. Okay, so just jumping right into this chapter, it pretty much starts with the future Shiki and the future Noah passing on a distorted warning to Prince Rebecca before she wakes up in the present. And on one hand, I'm a little disappointed we didn't get to spend a little bit longer time in that future dream. But on the other hand, I do get wanting to keep the mystery going. And even then, the Prince message from Prince Noah and Shiki is received loud and clear. Rebecca can't afford to lose, and she can't afford to lose her legs because okay, obviously, like it was already brought up. It was already brought up that yeah, even if Rebecca loses her legs, she supposedly she can still use Cat Leaper. But the thing is, from the way from the way that whole sequence in the past was framed, it's basically said that the pretty much moment that Prince Rebecca loses her legs, even if she doesn't lose her powers, the Prince moment the moment she becomes incapacitated in any fashion is the linchpin for everything to go to hell. And the thing is, I don't think Noah is even just talking about stopping Shura and the Nero Empire in this instance. I think what we saw and how he talked about the Eden Zero crew being killed is one of the possible futures where Ziggy succeeds in turning machines against humanity. So, to pretty much that point, I'm inclined to believe everything about the future we saw circles back to the O-Link, and whatever happens at the moment where the stars align and the O-Link system activate, Rebecca needs to be there, pretty much prepared to use Cat Leaper to stop whatever happens. Like I think I'm almost positive at this point that just in the same way that Cat Leaper was used in order to help defeat Dragon Joe, Cat Leaper is going to be is going to be quintessential towards towards stopping towards stopping the all links activation, or just stopping Shura and Ziggy from pretty much getting their hands on the power itself. And that's pretty much what I'm getting from this anyways. Obviously in order for us to get to that point though, we unfortunately need to deal with Lyra first. And to quote Superman from the Snyder Cut, not impressed. Like, okay, I'm sorry if there are any Lyra stands out there, but well, maybe I'm jumping the gun a little here, but Lyra is by far, honestly, the least interesting character of all the Ocean 7. And it really doesn't matter what. And at this point, for me, it's like, it really doesn't matter what her powers are or how she utilizes them. The character herself is just an annoying fucking diva. Like, I'm sorry, that's pretty much all I fucking see with this character. Like, honestly, as far as interest in this fight between Rebecca and Lyra, the only interest I have in this fight is the possibility of Rebecca unlocking a new power. In fact, a new power. In fact, I'm almost certain that that if she activates a new power, it will be tied to her. It will be tied to her. It will be tied to her whole. To basically that from this dream she had. But yeah, I'm sorry. That's gonna be the only thing that's gonna interest me about that is that what if this is gonna lead to her, is what kind of power this is gonna lead to Rebecca awakening. But that's the only interest I have in like Lyra, right, in Lyra versus Rebecca right now. Lyra herself, hate her. I'm sorry, I do. Um, Speaking of new power though, we see that Weisz unlocked Overdrive, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm starting to have a little bit of mixed feelings on the ease at which the Eden Zero crew is kind of tapping into Overdrive. I mean, and just so I can set the stage for this, I'm not gonna outright call it bullshit. It isn't. It's like the way this is being activated is still pretty much all within the rules that pretty much Mashima had set for how Overdrive works. So in that sense, I don't have a problem with them activating Overdrive. Um, because yeah, it is still them. It is still Ether Gear being pushed to its critical limitation, all that, and and credit where it's and in fact, credit where it's due as well. I think Weisz hacking into Nase's battle armor was that tipping point that allowed him to activate his 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 overdrive. But I think where I'm starting to have my issues with the whole with this whole awakening of overdrive right now it is that is the way that the chapter was oddly paced. It didn't feel earned all that much, which is at which it's kind of it all has to do with the pace at which it happens, which also kind of spotlights a bit of his strength and weakness of to how Mashima choreographs a fight. On one hand, I appreciate how he doesn't extend a fight for dozens of chapters. He's good at keeping it very self-contained. However, the downside to that, and something I just realized after reading this chapter, which is that Majima seems to be giving a lot less time to just building up the Overdrive awakening now. And compared to the first time Shiki awakened his Overdrive, it doesn't feel like we're really being given the proper time to appreciate the form itself. Because now it feels like it's being treated like every other power up or transformation. Like I suppose if I were to compare it to anything, as of right now, it kind of oddly feels like the pretty much Super Saiyan problem. Like the first time Goku awakened Super Saiyan and the first time Gohan awakened Super Saiyan 2, it felt like a big deal. It felt like an absolute big deal. But and the first time Shiki awakened Overdrive, it felt like a big fucking deal. But now with the way it's kind of paced but now the way that a lot of these like fights I think are paced in certain ways between like actually Kagura's the way Homer unleashed her Ether Gear, that was pretty good, but the way this fight is paced, it didn't feel properly earned, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know. All I can say is it is kind of the Super Saiyan problem, I think, as to what I feel about Weisz awakening his overdrive, I think, in this case. With that said, though, Weiss's Ether Gear is still impressively powerful. In fact, on top of the amazing clutch move he pulled with the signal jammers and his empowered million bullets, one thing I've never realized about Weisz until this moment is that while we don't know what the entirety of his past was like in his youth, this is one of those chapters that really does harken back to something the professor did say, which is that because Weisz isn't constrained by the paradoxical complications of the time, and has been allowed to travel with Shiki and Rebecca, he's not only become far more powerful than the professor, but in a lot of ways he's become more adept at robotics as well. Even if he didn't necessarily learn it the same way his counterpart did, you can still see elements of how he's kind of going down a very he's still kind of it's all still kind of leading him like down that approach very similar. That all leading him down the path of becoming a professor, just like his counterpart. And while we don't entirely know how powerful or how the professor had used his Ether Gear in his youth, it still is safe to say our Weisz has developed his Ether Gear in ways that might actually amaze the professor. And really, honestly, this chapter in general really got me wishing for the two Weiszes to meet again, frankly. And yeah, this is one of those chapters where even though it was a full 21 pages long, it's again another one of those where that really didn't feel like it. It's from a very deceiving chapter where again everything happens so fast that the 21 pages feels like 12 or 15 or 12 or 15 pages, something like that. It really does kind of feed into my previous criticism that everything happens so fast that the pacing felt off, or that there needed to be a small a small 1-page moment in between Rebecca waking up from her dream and the fight between Weisz and Nase in order to fill the gap. Like it felt there was like a piece missing in this chapter, but yeah, I don't know, maybe it's just me. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, for Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to hit the subscribe, the bell for notifications. Hit the subscribe button, and just Just pass this around, guys. Death Knight of Enemy, signing off. Later.